Today on News Pulse, as Russian oil refineries burn, the Kremlin fuels its war on civilians' petrol account. Russia spits into Trump's face by burning American business in Ukraine. Security guarantees for Ukraine. What, when, how and who? We are UATV. My name is Keenan. Welcome to the News Pulse. Ukrainian drones are hitting hard. Explosions, fires, fuel shortages in Russia. Russia is feeling the pain where it hurts most, its energy supply. The Kremlin sees war chest half empty and makes its own people to suffer, but cutting the civilian petrol supply. In the early hours of August 21st, a swarm of Ukrainian drones struck the Novoshakhtinsk oil product plant in Russia's Rostov region, igniting a massive blaze. The fire, clearly visible on NASA's satellite fire maps and documented by numerous local videos, followed a series of 5 powerful explosions. This marks the 5th Ukrainian drone strike on the facility since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. The refinery was first targeted on June 22, 2022, becoming the first oil processing site in Russia hit by a Ukrainian drone. 3 more attacks followed in 2024. The plant specializes in producing fuel oil, obviously marine and heating fuels, diesel and straight-run gasoline, all vital to Russia's energy infrastructure. A wave of successful Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian oil refineries had triggered a fuel crisis across Russia. Wholesale gasoline prices skyrocketed and many regions are seeing severe shortages with long queues forming petrol stations as panic buying spreads all over. In Russian-occupied peninsula of Crimea, for example, the situation is especially dire. Most gas stations have run dry, prices have surged and fuel now is rationed with coupons. Queues stretch for kilometers with drivers bringing extra canisters to stockpile what is little left. Even Kremlin-installed Crimean leader Mayor Sergei Aksyonov admitted on state TV that the shortage could last a month. Then what? Who knows? Back to horseback riding, probably. Meanwhile, Russia has fuel reserves intended for locals, but it is being diverted to fuel the Russian war machine, of course. Please note to whom it may concern, this is just the beginning. A new generation of Ukrainian weaponry is already coming. According to Associated Press, Ukraine now producing 1 Flamingo missile per day. A powerful FP5 class rocket capable of delivering a payload of up to 1,150 kilos, making it one of the most formidable in its class globally. By October, production is expected to ramp up to 7 missiles per day. As Ukraine scales its strike capabilities, Russia's energy infrastructure will remain under relentless pressure, a direct consequence of its continued aggression. Ukraine has made it clear the strikes will continue unless Russia ends its war.
The maximum range is 3,000 kilometers confirmed, with an accuracy of 14 meters to target on this distance. The maximum speed is 900 kilometers per hour. The cruise speed can vary, and this I will not disclose. And the payload capacity is, in the moment, 1,150 kilograms. It was 1,000 at the very beginning, but then we found a spot how to enlarge it a little bit. And the overall MTOV of the missile is 6 tons. It's been launched with a solid rocket propellant and then goes with the turbojet engine of our own production, as well as a solid rocket booster production is also our own production.
So, as the chief tech officer of the Ukrainian missile production company just confirmed, it is solely the Ukrainian army, Ukrainian developments and missiles that can guarantee independence of Ukraine and security of the country, and not even international declarations, any of them. Memorandums and foreign businesses like American Flextronics set ablaze by Russian ballistics has clearly shown.
Ukrainian weapon production is a huge guarantee of Ukraine independence, and not only Ukrainian independence, but also European independence and European safety of the whole continent. Because right now Ukraine is holding this barrier and let's say it's exporting safety to other countries. which are standing behind Ukraine.
Again, and this is just the start. With more powerful weapons coming of the production line, Ukraine's message is stop the war or the strikes will keep coming at you. As simple as that. In case you did not know, Russia proposed its own version of security guarantees for Ukraine, where China and Russia are the guarantors.
China helped Russia by opening up the drone market. The question here is not even about the military personnel who are present there. It is about the Budapest Memorandum. China was among the signatories. They did nothing when Crimea was occupied. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, during a press meeting.
So what or who may become a viable guarantor then? The United States of America believes they have an answer.
If you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin doesn't invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought in a war in 30 or 40 years. J.D. Vance, United States Vice President, from a Reuters report.
So what is wrong, after all, with security guarantees for Ukraine that Russia proposes? Some might ask. Nothing, but for this is not guarantees and not a security. That's it. Because Russia was a security guarantor and still is one, according to all previous agreements, whether Istanbul or Budapest. And being a guarantor of Ukrainian security right now, that is what Russia is doing to American business in Zakarpattia. A Russian missile strike hit an American electronics manufacturer Flextronics in Mukachevo, western Ukraine, as of today on August 21, 2025. The attack resulted in one confirmed death and at least 18 injuries, along with significant damage to the plant. The facility, which produces consumer electronics, was described as a fully civilian facility with no military connection whatsoever. That was according to Regional Governor Miroslav Bilecki and Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. So Putin shells American business in Ukraine. Russia destroys American property, kills Ukrainians and endangers American lives, burns American money and plans and business most literally with a ballistic missile, and openly spits into Donald Trump's face, and all that while being a guarantor of Ukrainian security as per previously signed agreements in Istanbul and Budapest. And what America does in return, lays a red carpet under Putin's feet in Alaska. If Putin refuses to take part in negotiations with the president of Ukraine, the UK and the European Union will impose additional sanctions against Russia, the Telegraph reports, citing sources in the British government. The Russian dictator is not ready to meet with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Either now or in the future, CNN writes about it. According to analysts, the Kremlin will continue to drag out time and terrorize the civilian population of Ukraine. That is what is going now. My colleague Natalia Gusak looked into what could force actually Putin to sit down at the negotiating table.
On Monday, August 18th, Donald Trump announced that preparations are underway for a summit between the president of Ukraine and the head of the Kremlin. During a phone call with the U.S. president, Putin agreed to meet with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the White House confirmed.
Well, look, the president has spoken to both leaders about this, and both leaders have expressed a willingness to sit down with each other. And so our national security team will help both countries do that. Ultimately, the president has always said that there are areas of disagreement in this war that will have to be discussed and decided upon by these two countries. And so he wants these two countries to engage in direct diplomacy.
Just a few days later, the Kremlin signaled it was not ready for dialogue. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that while Moscow does not rule out either bilateral or trilateral talks, quote, any contacts involving top officials must be prepared with the utmost care. Putin's aide Ushakov merely suggested that the level of representation of the Russian delegation could be raised.
Russia may try to keep the U.S. on side by doing what Ushakov suggested and suggesting a new round of Istanbul talks, but with a higher-level delegation, perhaps including Ushakov himself and Foreign Minister Lavrov. But he won't risk an ambush by sitting down with Zelenskyy only to find all his demands rejected. Tatiana Stanovaya, senior fellow at the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center, in an interview with CNN.
European leaders support Washington's peace initiatives, but they do not believe Russia is willing to end its war against Ukraine. That is why, on August 29th to 30th, at an informal meeting of EU foreign ministers in Copenhagen, the 19th package of sanctions against Russia will be discussed.
Russia must immediately stop the violence. Our priority must be ending the killings. Whether we call it a ceasefire or a truce is secondary. What matters is that we will continue to apply sanctions if Russia does not comply. It is more important than ever to maintain strong pressure on Russia. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council.
The UK and the European Union are preparing new restrictions against Russia to be imposed if Putin refuses to take part in negotiations with Ukraine's president, The Telegraph reports, citing a source in the UK government.
We must remember, Putin can rarely be trusted, so it remains to be seen whether he will have the courage to attend such a meeting, whether he has the courage to take part in a trilateral meeting, or whether he will once again stall for time. Of course, if he continues to stall, then together we will seek new solutions.
Despite Putin's statements about allegedly wanting to end the war against Ukraine, Russian forces continue shelling Ukrainian cities. Kharkiv, Sumy, Zaporizhia, Odessa, Kremenchuk, and Okhturka are under heavy attack.
There is one language Putin understands: pressure. A combination of military and economic pressure. This means that, in a certain sense, U.S. involvement plays a key role. What also plays a key role is keeping secondary sanctions on the agenda. Moritz Weiss, senior lecturer in international relations at the LMU University of Munich.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has urged European leaders to pressure Russia into agreeing to a ceasefire before high-level talks can begin. French President Emmanuel Macron is also calling for sanctions to be tightened if Putin fails to take steps toward peace.
President Trump believes in his ability to reach an agreement, and he also believes that Putin wants such a peace deal. I welcome this and want to believe it after the meetings that have taken place. But if this process is rejected, we all agree that sanctions will have to be tightened, and in any case, pressure on Russia must be increased to bring it back to the negotiating table.
Experts say there are no signs that Russia is seeking peace. Therefore, pressure from the U.S. and Europe is a necessary condition for real peace talks. Reported by Natalia Husak, Vladimir Stenhelov, UATV News.
My name is Henry Keane, and thank you so very much for standing with Ukraine. Please subscribe so to stay tuned to what is happening in the world, presented to you from Ukrainian perspective, of course.